250,000 gallons of beer.
Amazing.
I thought that's where Colt 45 went.
That's hearsay, Dave. But like, I couldn't believe it. I was reading the article, and so this day and age, a lot of the kind of bigger breweries, the macro brews, the corporations, we poo-poo them, and we look down on them and turn our noses, and I bite my thumb at thee. But I mean, like they all started somewhere, and at some point, whether it was the money that was put into advertising or just the American palate, I mean, those companies became big for a reason.
Yeah. The American palate had a lot. What you're talking about, Mark?
Well, I mean,
the people love to
Germans
go
and
into a local bar and have a nice, light, refreshing beer, and talk to their friends, and then go home and go to work the next day. Now, where the craft beer industry enters with the high ABVs, with the 7, the 10, you really you can't do that. You can't go have 10, 12 beers with your buddies at the local pub.
You shouldn't be having 10 or 12 damn Budweisers either, damn it.
But that's where you talk about anything else, Coca-Cola, wine. There are chemists out there that are figuring out the palate, what people like on their palate.
Of course, yeah.
And they try to duplicate this is the perfect amount of vanilla in the Coke or whatever. It is definitely changing.
Definitely changing.
This is one of the things I wanted to talk about, because tonight's the Seat of the Pants night, and we were going to just talk about the state of American beer.
My pants.
My pants. But but one of the interesting thing is, about 10 years ago, craft beer, if I'm not mistaken, didn't exist. Back then they called it microbrew.
Yeah.
No, Mark's back there saying it's not true.
Okay,
but
Mark says it's not true.
All right, it wasn't much. If it wasn't 10 years ago, it was 12 years ago. But it wasn't too much beyond that. But the point I'm making is that back then, the beers that we're drinking tonight, or beers like them, amounted to like 1 or 2% of the American consumption of beer.
Yes.
And today, here we are 10, 12 years later, and we're talking 11%.
Yeah.
And on top of that, a lot of people have gone from drinking beer to drinking spirits. So that's also making a dent in your commercial American beers, like from Anheuser-Busch and whomever.
Well,
but the point is, right now, the beer we're drinking, the craft breweries, are they're 11% of the market, which is very strong. And we saw the effect of that was, Mark, when you got so upset with the Budweiser commercials at the Super Bowl. That's a result of that by no means, because they're feeling the punch in the nose.
Yeah.
So that's one of the fascinating things. In the American palate is changing. It's taken a while to get there, but it's happening. And another thing that's really cool, and I made a mention of this in my blog about music, but the one of the really interesting things is, over time, you've had beers like, let's just say, Budweiser or Miller, and they hit each other, punch each other, give each other black eyes and everything like that. You go to the craft brewers today, and you have we have this American black ale, and then we had the other beer, the
Citra Hero from Revolution.
And they're completely different beers, but you know what they'll do? The people who are promoting each one of these things, and they're completely different people, but they'll say, hey, the guy who's promoting the American black ale will go to the Citra beer, and he'll say, you got to try this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, that's true.
They're all working together.
Yep.
So in the corporate model, it's called synergy. But so the independent model, I don't know if that actually has a name, but it's due to interest. It's due to love and care, and I care about beer. I love beer. Obviously,
that's why we do the show.
Beer show.
We all do.
But I mean,
we're passionate about
corporate synergy is about promoting other brands that are within your corporate umbrella, and so instead of corporate synergy, it's something different. Where
It's
it's
very
like,
different.
It's people that just give a damn about the other person's product. I mean, so we had some people down here from just recently at Brewfest. Buddy of ours, his name is Caesar. He works for a brewery, and I ran into him at a different location out here that week on the island. He was like, "Hey, have you tried this?" And it's like, "Oh, do you guys make it?" And he was like, "No, it's by,
Yeah, that's exactly.
Brewery B." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." He was like, "You gotta try it."
Yeah, that's my point. Is that
Yeah.
all these guys are collectively working in one direction, and
Yes.
they know that what's good for the guy next to them is good for them, and what's good for the guy on the other side of them is good for everybody.
Well,
Yeah.
what was the saying? As the tide rises, all the boats rise as well. Or-
Oh, a rising tide raises all ships.
yeah, rising
There you
tide
go.
raises all
Yeah.
ships.
And and that's one of the things I love about the American craft brewery industry. And also, you get some people get technical. They say, "Well, they're too big to be a craft brewery." But no matter what you want to call them, everybody who's not like one of the major brewers, you have someone like Anchor Steam Beer, and you have someone like Sam Adams. Those are the bigger ones. But the thing is, they still fall into the same category because everybody's working for the same goal, and they want to encourage everybody else
Everyone
to work
just,
with them.
I mean, like the
fabulous.
difference is between this, and I don't even want to use the word corporate because some of the beers that we were actually talking about are corporations,
Right, that's what
and,
I'm
and,
saying.
and, you know, that's a designation for financial reasons and whatever. But I mean, the bigger brands are about promoting themselves, and the smaller brands are about promoting the culture.
Exactly.
And
That's
even
the whole thing.
it's like, for me, beer culture is more important than making money. I mean, for me, having good beer and having a good laugh with my friends, my family, like, I mean, come on, that's way more important than having money.
Oh, totally.
It doesn't matter.
But it goes back to what we were saying before. Is that, and here's an example. Dave Senior. Say hello, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
He just took a big swig of beer.
Way to
just
call him out on that one.
But when we had the Brewfest here, at the beginning of the month, Dave had this idea of saying, "Hey, you know what? On Sunday, let's have everybody over here, and they
Yeah.
all can come here, and we'll all just hang out and drink beer. It's a private party up until noon or 1 o'clock, whatever it happened to be. It was like 8 to noon or whatever. But the point was that everybody who was in the beer fest that came here, they were all from different breweries, and unlike, I go back to the Miller and Budweiser and Schlitz. If this happened, if this happened 30 years ago, you'd have like one group of people in one corner, the Budweiser people here. In another corner, you'd have the Miller people, you'd have the Schlitz and the old Milwaukee and all that stuff, all separated.
Yeah.
No, not here. No, everyone was just shooting the breeze and having a great time with each other. They're trying to promote the whole craft brew industry as one, and they all work together, and they're all promoting each other. And
It was quite a unique experience
it
to
really
have
was. It
all
really
of those guys here, guys and gals here, and all talking to each other, all slapping each other on the back,
And
all talking about different things.
And the cool thing about it, Dave, was that they all know each other.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time
Yes.
they've done it.
No.
But
Yes.
one of the coolest things about it was that in the environment that you set up here at the Cork and Stogie, when they came here, as opposed to being in other things where they talked to each other for 5 minutes, here they were able to talk to each other for an hour
Yeah.
to individuals, because the event went on for 4 or 5 hours, and they were actually able to spend more time with each other and get to know each other better. But they're always, whether it was in an environment that they'd met each other in other situations where they were with each other for 5 or 10 minutes, or this one where they were able to be here together for like an hour or what have you. They're all focused on the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the one thing that, like, Dave, you provided for them was that forum that for them to all get together and relax.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
Great event.
And every single person that was here mentioned that.
Yeah.
And hats off to Dave Senior.
Hey, thank
cheers,
you.
Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hoist them
Cheers,
high.
man. Woo.
Hey. See you at the bottom.
Hello, this is Dave Senior, and you're listening to Key West Beer Tales, the sum of all beers. What about the guys and gals that can't afford to brew their own beer and have their own brewery
So contract
and their
brewing.
own building? Are they in sense leasing?
Yes, of course. That's exactly what
Because
they're
they're
that's
going to
yeah,
Brew
that's
Hub
exactly
and
what
they're
they're doing. Yeah.
contracting.
That's
Yeah.
a great point.
That's
and
exactly what they're doing.
I can't afford to own the car.
I
I can't
own a
afford to
brewery,
own the building. I can't afford to own a brewery.
but I could come up with a formula. That's a great. Oh,
So,
wow.
so for me, I come from a very different background than probably all of you guys. Both Dave and Chris, you guys are a little bit older than me. You guys come from an automotive background.
Yeah.
I grew up with. I'm pretty sure that none of us actually grew up with a silver spoon in our mouths, but like I grew up pretty poor.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
and like
we got by, but it was okay.
yeah, we got by.
Well, you have more of a farming background.
Yes.
I don't know
He's
about
a
Danny,
farmer.
whether it's farming or
Mark's a
farmer.
My parents released my mom read Mother Earth magazine, so we kind of like took the homesteading idea and did a lot of gardening and raised some pigs
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
And Chris, you probably middle class upbringing as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Middle working
No,
class.
we weren't on the other side of the tracks. Was the other side of the tracks, and that was the rich side of the tracks.
Yeah.
And when I say that, my parents both worked, and we were middle class. It wasn't like we always wondered where tomorrow's meal was coming from, but it was always, it was a struggle for my folks to keep things up.
It was a very interesting point in my life when I remember it was very young. It was a very early memory of mine. But my older sister turned to my mom when we were at the grocery store because she would buy this giant bag of chicken legs. And my sister said to her, "How many legs do chickens actually have?" And obviously it was like we weren't buying chicken breasts, we were buying chicken legs.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's pretty much where we're coming from. And on top of that, we had chickens. We grew up on a farm. So hey. But anyway, that being said, the whole ownership versus leasing, and it's a point of contention on my sensibilities about whether or not I consider contract brewing to actually be craft brewing. Because for me, production of a single product is made by a team. And that team is curated, selected, it's chosen. And for me, brewing has always been with a team. Manufacturing anything that I've ever made has always been with a team. The few times that I've ever had somebody else make a product that I was responsible for, I have always done my hardest to distance myself with that product, simply because I wasn't hands-on in that situation. So for me, and I know this probably sounds semi-elitist, if not snobby, it's like, if you don't have your own team making it, who's making it? I'm sure these people, the contract brewers, are competent individuals. Obviously they're doing it and they can get away with it. Not even get away with it. They can produce a fine product. The end result is a fine product.
Absolutely.
But for me, it's like, who is this? Is this like...
Well, you're looking, and I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying what you're doing is you're looking at it from an artistic point of view.
Yes, I am.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's wonderful. On the other hand, with the contract brewers, and I'm going to use the one, and I don't even know their name offhand, but they're based in Pennsylvania.